across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a very good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you for the next 3 hours, and just so you know, we are going to be continuing to look at the situation in Belfast up until 1 o'clock, and the phone lines will be open, so if you do want to talk to me before the usual talkback hour, then you're very welcome to call in. A 30-year-old man has been charged, we know now, with attempted murder after a knife attack in North Belfast on Monday night. We are unable to show you footage of that attack because it is just so gruesome. So we've decided as an organisation that we won't be showing the actual attack. He's also been charged with possession of an article with a blade in a public place and threats to kill. Now, he's due before court on Wednesday. A man in his 40s remains in hospital with serious injuries to his eyes, neck and back after the attack in Kinard Avenue at about 10:30. Well, a video widely circulated online shows a number of people, including one wielding a hurling stick, confronting the apparent attacker until police officers arrived. Now, the police service of Northern Ireland have called for calm as sporadic pockets of disorder have broken out across Northern Ireland in response to the attack. It is expected that now it has got darker, that there will be more violence on the streets of Belfast, simply because there's so many cameras in Belfast. Normally people would not want to be identified, but in the dark of night we're seeing houses being set on fire. No injury, no reports so far of people being injured, but we will keep across that completely. We've seen a couple of houses set on fire, many cars set on fire as well, and of course, as you're seeing on the screen there, that double bus that is now an absolute wreck. That was earlier on today. That is now absolute husk. The police are still on scene gathering evidence, or they were until very recently gathering evidence, but the tension in Belfast is very, very high, and this is because that the man accused is a foreign national who was granted asylum for 5 years. So it is, as I was saying to Peter, it feels like we're on a tinderbox Britain now. It just feels like there's so many things that happen in quick succession that people are becoming angrier and angrier and angrier. And a lot of people believe that they're not being heard, that they are just not being heard, that politicians who urge calm are not getting the tone right, that they're not hearing what people are saying. So if you're not heard, you get louder, don't you? You get louder and louder and louder, and that is my concern, is that with a lack of actual listening and hearing what people are saying in this country, that things will just get worse and worse and worse. So that's what I want to talk to you about. I want you to tell me how you're feeling about this, what you think the next step should be, how you think we cope with this feeling of just being on edge, that this country feels like it's on edge right now. You know, violence is never the answer, but it is a case of people feeling that they're not being listened to. So give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at national rate, but we do call you back. And text the word talk and your message to 87222. Police, of course, are calling for calm amid that disorder, but there are plumes of smoke all over the city at the moment. But like I said, we will keep across this as much as we can through the next 3 hours. Coming up as well, well on the programme. We are going to be crossing to Belfast in about 15, 20, 30 minutes. We're going to head over there and have a chat and see what's going on, find out what the latest is as well. And we're also going to be looking at Artemis 3. Claire Muldoon joins us, by the way, at 11 o'clock to go through the papers and the top story of the day. But before all of that, today the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, has called for the complete abolition of the public sector equality duty in a speech at the Institute for Government. She argued that this legal requirement for public bodies to promote diversity advances highly divisive agendas rooted in identity politics. She also claimed that a fear of being called racist routinely prevents authorities from intervening to stop serious major crimes. Instead, she urged an immediate return to what she called common sense, demanding that Britain's public services prioritise core duties like community safety rather than continuing to expand bloated diversity and inclusion bureaucracies. Very timely, I think, and I think this dovetails into what is going on in Belfast as well. Well, joining me now to discuss this is Kevin Schofield, political editor at the Huffington Post UK. Kevin, before we get into Kemi's speech there, what has the political reaction been so far to the riots in Belfast and the fires?
Well, the word really has been most commonly used as horrific. Both Keir Starmer and Nigel Farage both described it as horrific. The Prime Minister said it was sickening. Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, has this evening described it as utterly sickening and horrifying, but urges calling for a period of calm, which is what you mentioned earlier. We're hearing that a lot. Doesn't appear to be being heeded right now, certainly on the streets of Belfast. And yet another massive challenge for the government to try and address the public's concerns about this incident, and just that feeling right now that things are kind of spinning out of control, really. And
I completely agree with you, Kevin, and I do think that these things, like I said, are coming in rapid succession now, and really truly horrific things as well, not just small things. Do you think that the language that politicians are using is the right language? Are they getting it, do you think? Because my fear is that that's why people riot, is because they don't feel heard.
Yeah, I mean, I think there definitely is an element of that. I think it's a real challenge. I mean, we saw the controversy last week over Nigel Farage calling for pure cold rage in the aftermath of the sentencing of Henry Novak's killer. That's despite the fact that Henry Novak's father, said he didn't want his son's death to be a cause of division. So I still think it's incumbent on politicians to try and bring the country together, unify the country rather than divide it. That being said, I think voters at the same time need to think that the government gets it, or that our political leaders get it. And that's why it's such a difficult balancing, and it's a difficult line to tread, I think, for politicians. They have to echo that sense of anger and frustration that the public are clearly feeling and expressing, while at the same time trying not to exploit that feeling for political purposes to try and heal the wounds, as it were, because there's quite clearly a lot of deep wounds across the country right now, and it's incumbent, I think, on the government to try and bring the country back together.
But are we not, in this country, just fed up with words as well, with a lack of action? I mean, this one in, one out thing that with France has failed. It's just been a failure. We haven't really heard much about migration in the last few weeks or even months. It's not really been on the top of the Labour agenda because they're fussing about who's going to lead the party. And I think that feeds into it as well, doesn't it? That people are going, look, enough of this, keep calm, do something.
Yeah, I mean, smashing the gangs. You remember that one? You never hear the Prime Minister mention smashing the gangs anymore. Yeah, I mean, people just see examples like this, seeming to happen again and again, and you think, well, what is the government actually doing about it? And you're right. I mean, warm words certainly won't cut it as far as the public is concerned. But you're right. There's no doubt that Keir Starmer is, I think, distracted right now, and the government is in paralysis because, you know, we're all waiting to find out how this by-election is going to go next Thursday, because, you know, either way, I think Keir Starmer is living on borrowed time. But if Andy Burnham wins, then things could happen pretty quickly. So in that context, it's like, well, how long is Keir Starmer going to be Prime Minister anyway? How can he personally, you know, grasp this issue and deal with it and bring the whole power of the government to bear on dealing with it when we don't know if he's still going to be Prime Minister this time next month?
Let's turn to Kemi Badenoch. Quite a powerful speech. I watched it this morning. She's certainly found her legs, hasn't she, in terms of delivering these speeches. What did you make of it? Because there is a difference between what Reform want to do with the Equality Act and what Kemi Badenoch is suggesting, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, they want to scrap it, Reform, that is. They want to scrap it. It's as simple as that, whereas what Kemi Badenoch is talking about is an overhaul, a pretty drastic reform, but something that, you know, that Labour certainly would never countenance. But she's not chasing after reform in terms of saying we're just going to scrap it. She wants to scrap the specific element of it, this public sector equality duty, which requires public servants like police officers, nurses, and teachers to consider equality issues during their day-to-day work. She says that has a sort of a perverse side effect, and that it forces public sector workers to sort of put people in boxes depending on their maybe cultural background, for instance, and that then becomes like a box ticking exercise, and it doesn't actually bring about equality at all. Now, Labour have accused her of trying to turn the clock back and suggested that, you know, this would be an end to maternity rights and discrimination at work, and the Tories are saying no, that's a complete misreading of what we are trying to do. So it's a subtle message, but I think you're right. I think it shows how Kemi Badenoch certainly has a confidence that she didn't have before as Tory leader, that she can get up and make these arguments and try and win over a rather sceptical public, I think, about the whole political system.
I mean, I am going to say this. It may be an unpopular thing to say, but it is helpful that she is a black woman delivering this message as well, because she's been saying, look, I've been fighting about this for some time, which she has when she was Equalities Minister, and it is pretty much only a black person could deliver, I think, that message in the way that she was able to deliver it today.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point to make. I think that is certainly true, and you're right. She has, you know, she's not a Johnny come lately. She hasn't just, you know, happened upon this stance for political expediency because of the current climate that we're living in. This is something that she pursued forcefully, I think, when she was Equalities Minister, for instance, you know, in the last Conservative government. And you're right, I think her own personal background does add weight to what she is saying. Now, we've yet to see her personal popularity increase translating to the Tory party. I think that's the next challenge for her. I think she has won over a lot of sceptical voters who maybe didn't think she was up to the job. I think she is up to the job, but it's an incredibly difficult job. And, you know, until we start seeing the Tories making electoral gains, making real advances in the opinion polls, then unfortunately, for all her own personal performance has improved, it's the party that matters, and it looks as though she's still struggling to drag up the Conservative brand.
Yeah, we'll find out if she's managed to do that with this. Kevin, thank you very much indeed. Kevin Schofield, political editor at the Huffington Post UK. Thank you. Well, joining me now is Matt Johnson, who's the CEO of Race on the Agenda. Now, they work with communities impacted by systemic racism to help create policies and practices to tackle inequality. Matt, what did you make of... good evening, by the way. What did you make of Kemi Badenoch's speech this morning?
Yeah, I would have to say that I definitely strongly disagree with Kemi Badenoch's characterization of the public sector equality duty. There is nothing within the public sector equality duty that tells officers that they must believe false claims. The public sector equality duty tells institutions that they must think before they act, whether it comes to age, gender, race, sexuality. That, and we should be demanding more of that rather than less of that, and holding institutions to account around that rather than less accountability.
I mean, for a lot of people, this mentally they will go to the rape gangs, right? The Rotherham rape gangs and things like that, where race did play a role in a lack of police attention. That they were afraid to be called racist if they intervened, or if they believed these girls, if they started asking questions. So in that regard, does she have a point that actually it's about common sense, that it doesn't matter if you're brown or black, if you're breaking the law, then you need to be approached in the same way as anybody else would be?
I mean, we have seen throughout history, going back to the Stephen Lawrence case, as you've seen with Henry Novak, poor decision making that has happened within the police forces. I think we can all agree that our police forces have not always acted in the best interest of the public.
Yeah.
So that is a failure. That's definitely a failure of judgment. That's a failure of leadership. But that does not necessarily mean that we need a complete bonfire of equality laws. That's a completely different thing. Having laws that protect people by their protected characteristics is very different to kind of the implementation and actual the judgment that is taken by police officers when they're on the ground.
But what about the fear that some police officers have, that has been maybe trained into them, about being, overly favourative? Certainly in the case of the Henry Novak situation, that was poor judgment. That was a terrible policing, and I think we can all agree with that. And Henry Novak's family would absolutely say that. But that a lot of the police had said, look, we're too scared not to. We're too scared to be accused of being racist if we immediately assume that the brown guy did it.
I mean, one thing that we cannot ignore, I mean, and I understand that there is a history of institutional racism within the police as well, and that is something that does,
and misogyny.
Yeah, exactly, and misogyny within the police. That's something that we cannot just put under the carpet. It was only a few months ago where we had the BBC documentary and Charing Cross, and we saw very viscerally the misogyny and the racism and all those really difficult and bad things that were happening within the police service. That one beyond the statistics, the statistics showed us those disparities, but we saw it. We saw it all very clearly on that documentary. So there are definitely issues, and the public sector equality duty. Scrapping that and understanding those issues within the police is not the way to go. Really, it's just not the way to go. Throwing equality out the window when we know that there are still these misogynistic issues. There are still these issues when it comes to racism within the policing institution.
But to be fair, Kemi Badenoch has said that this is not about scrapping the Equalities Act. This is not about, she said it should be a shield, not a sword. That this isn't about, the Reform want to get rid of the Equalities Act, but Kemi Badenoch is saying this is not that. This is not what we want to do. What we want to do is, like in the situation with the Southport killer, that there isn't more slack cut for somebody, or saying, look, you're being racist by pointing out that he brought a weapon into school. Other people, like the Nottingham killer, who the NHS were concerned that there was an over-representation of black faces in their mental health units. That sort of thing, it seems to me to be not an equalities issue, but a training issue, that they're not that they're not being smart enough to say, well, actually, it doesn't matter if we've got too many faces of one colour in. If they need to be in there, they need to be in there.
Yeah, definitely. I think there are, as clearly in the Henry Novak case and in other cases, there was clearly questions to be made around policing judgment. But if we're talking specifically, I mean, Kemi has come out today speaking about the public sector equality duty, and the public sector equality duty does not, tell officers or different members of different institutions, whether they be in the NHS, to falsely believe wrong allegations when it comes to racism. So in terms of the legal framework, in terms of that equality framework, I just don't see any justification for that being scrapped when there is nothing in there that is leading to these kind of adverse results as well.
But do you think that then it could be a case of misguided people training people the wrong way? That there's just a misunderstanding of this guidance, of these rules, that has made people go, oh look, we've got to be really careful here, because that doesn't help anybody, right? It doesn't help the black community, it doesn't help women, it doesn't it doesn't help any of us if it's been inappropriately applied.
No, the application of the public sector equality duty, the right application of the public sector equality duty, would not mean that people are disproportionately impacted in those ways. The public sector equality duty is, again, what it's about is about making people think before they serve and before they establish institutions, which is really important given the gender inequalities, given the racial inequalities, given the issues of even around disability and other protected characteristics. It's really, really important that this is this remains in place, given that history. But that's a separate issue to individual judgment, whether they be within the NHS or whether it be of policing. But completely scrapping this legislation, I don't see how that helps.
Good to talk to you, Matt. I hope I get to do it again. Thank you very much indeed. Matt Johnson there, CEO of Race on the Agenda, working with communities impacted by systemic racism to help create policies and practices to tackle inequality. Quick break, back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good evening to you. The latest from Belfast, Northern Ireland's Deputy First Minister, Emma Little-Pengelly, has appealed for calm following outbreaks of violence in a number of areas. Residents are being removed from houses which have caught fire in Lendrick Street in East Belfast, and the Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue Service officers are attending the scene. And there are many fires now across Belfast. There's cars, vehicles, all sorts of things that are being set alight. So we will bring you the latest on that. But I'm going to take a couple of calls here because I know people really want to talk about this. William is in London. William, good to speak to you. What do you make of what's going on in Belfast currently?
Well, it's not just Belfast, Petrie. It's all over the country. There's minor demonstrations throughout the country. There's one in London outside Parliament Square tonight. But really what I want to say is, Petrie, all these attacks by these so-called asylum seekers or these migrants seeking asylum, etc., it's just getting worse and worse. It seems to be every week now.
It does. I know what you mean. Yeah.
And the politicians, Petrie, just are not saying anything about it, whether it's Labour or Conservative. I heard you there praising Kemi Badenoch. There was 14 years of Conservative government. She was part of the problem. And you're praising her about what she's doing now.
I didn't praise her. I said I thought that she was stepping into her role well. That's not the same as praising her or indeed agreeing with what she's been saying. But, you know, all of the politicians will come. We know what they're all going to say. We know what they're all going to say. They always say it. And that's part of the problem, is that, you know...
Hang on a minute. This is the two-party system you're talking about since the Second World War that's not made anyone in Britain better off. We've had mass immigration in the last 20 years of 10 million people, Petrie. We cannot cope anymore. There are people coming into this country that no one even knows where they're from.
True.
And then, Petrie, you get the mainstream media tonight moaning and reporting about people that are protesting someone has been nearly murdered in Belfast. They're moaning about a bus being set fire. And all they're worried about, the mainstream media, Sky and BBC, is talking about the damage that's happening and nothing about the person that's been nearly killed.
Well, we don't know it. We don't know. First of all, we don't know. None of the media know anything about the person who was attacked. That information has not been released.
All they want to do is slag off the people, Petrie, that are on the street saying what is going on in our area.
But do you believe that the right thing to do with your anger is to set a bus on fire or people's private cars on fire or their houses on fire?
Petrie, come on, I'm 64 years old, no criminal record, it's ridiculous. But these politicians, since the Second World War, are not listening to the people. This is why Reform and other parties are coming through. They're saying something that resonates with people, whether you like Farage or not. Most of the things he says resonates. And he will be voted in. And these other parties are hanging on. Career politicians, Andy Burnham, never had a job in his life. Going to be Prime Minister, he doesn't care about the people in Macclesfield. He hasn't got a clue.
No, well, I'm going to have to mention everybody else now in Mayfield. Thanks for that. But I do listen. I did say earlier, and I said it to Peter as well, that if you feel like you're not being heard, you shout louder and louder. So I have not criticised. I mean, I think that violence is never the answer, but I understand why people turn to violence when their voices are not heard. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but I do say that I understand it.
But Petrie, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of men either crossing the Channel on the boats, and you get Darren Jones, the Prime Minister's personal secretary, saying on Question Time to the public, you can all see it's women and children on the boats. And there he is, number 2 to the Prime Minister.
Yeah, we know that's absolutely not true. That's absolutely not true. We know that. But is it because of the language that they're using that we're getting...
Why are people listening to this?
I don't know.
Why are people listening to that rubbish? Lies.
Well, I just think, why are the politicians not finding the right language that we need to hear right now? Oh, it's not even about language, it's action, isn't it?
It's not about the language, it's about the action. How have you ever said, you said tonight, stop the boats, 1 in, 1 out, smash the gangs. It's all BS, we all know it. There's tens of thousands of people every month coming here, whether it's legal or illegal. Petrie, 10 million people since 2004. It's just unsustainable. and the people are all suffering. The British people are suffering. We're paying for it.
But what do we do if and not turn to burning people's houses down? How do we get heard?
You've got to have someone in Parliament who has been elected to say all the migration has got to stop for a number of years until we know who's in here, know who's illegal, know who's contributing, know who's not contributing, because it's going to get worse and worse. And these killings, assaults, murders, rapes, as you said tonight, it's going to carry on and get worse. It's going to get worse and worse, Petrie.
I hear you, William, and my fear is the same, that we're just getting angrier. Since you mentioned Andy Burnham, I've got to go through this list. It's your own fault. Jake Austin, the Liberal Democrats, Count Bimface Party, Andy Burnham, the Labour Party, Dan Clark, the Libertarian Party, John Dyer, the Independents, Ed Gemmell, Climate Party, Paul Gould, Independent, Alan Howling, Lord Hope, the official monster raving loony party, Robert Kenyon, Reform UK, Robert Pownell, Protect the Wild, Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain, Sarah Wakefield, Green Party, Peter Ward, Rejoin EU, and Michael Winstanley, the Conservative Party. I've got to take a break, but I will be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a good evening to you. This is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you. Belfast, of course, on high alert. The police are attending, the fire service, are attending some of the buildings that have been set on fire. People have been rescued from those homes. And joining me now to discuss this further is Kiva Quinn, who's a broadcast journalist with U105 in Belfast. Kiva, thank you very much indeed for joining me. If you can just talk us through the latest.
Yeah, so obviously the coverage we've seen tonight is just those pockets of disruption, I suppose, erupting right across Belfast and even outside of Belfast in different areas. We have seen a number of vehicles set on fire. We have seen masked men gather in one area where they were reportedly kicking doors and breaking windows of houses. We have seen public transport buses set on fire, and now that darkness has fallen, there is a fear that this is just going to continue to escalate through the night.
Now, the police in Belfast, sadly, have got a lot of experience with this kind of disruption. What would be their plan tonight, Kiva? What do they look like they're doing to you?
Yeah, well, earlier our Chief Constable of the PSNI, John Boucher, actually said, Northern Ireland is well rehearsed in such trouble, unfortunately. So the police do know how to deal with it. We have seen increased policing patrols, which we were told would happen from this afternoon. Even just driving around the local roads, you could definitely notice more cars and even Land Rovers about this evening. If you've been watching the protests unfold online, we have seen police use those Land Rovers as cordons to try and maybe back groups of people into certain areas where they can perhaps police them better. We've also seen them out with the fire service trying to extinguish those fires that have been coming up across the city as vehicles and other things are set on fire. And the police said there will be that increased police patrol in the coming days in order just to help, I suppose, make people feel safe.
I know that journalists don't feel safe. They've already been threatened. A lot of journalists, of course, on the scene, trying to capture footage, trying to find out what's going on. And one that we certainly know about was threatened with being kneecapped and had to quickly evacuate the area. It must be actually quite scary down there for journalists at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, as a journalist, usually you're going to these scenes where the violence is erupting and people don't necessarily want, obviously, their faces shown. They don't want photographs, they don't want video. And it's kind of unavoidable in this day and age. So whenever these peaceful protests erupt into the violence, then they can take a turn on journalists. But of course, it's our job to go out and report as much as we can when these things are happening. So there are a lot of journalists out on the ground this evening. Unfortunately, I'm not one of them. And they are covering everything that's unfolding and watching those scenes just erupt.
What is coming up next for Belfast? We know that the man has been arrested. We know that he is facing court on Wednesday. What is the process now?
Well, we don't actually release the name of the suspect until he has appeared in court, so that information will be released tomorrow. In terms of what can happen, we've seen this cycle of unrest already unfold previously in Belfast. We saw the racially motivated violence that erupted back in June 2004 and again in June 2025. So there's a widespread fear that we're going to see these things on our streets again. Earlier this afternoon, we weren't quite sure if there was going to be disorder tonight or whether those protests would go ahead. Unfortunately, they have. And now we're seeing, disruption that's going to run into the next few days for people trying to get to work, try to go about their lives. And we'll just have to see how this story unfolds.
And just before I let you go, these houses that are being burned and the cars that are being set fire to, are they targeted? Is there a reason that those particular houses have been chosen, or is this just wanton violence, just for the sake of it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it seems like wanton violence. From what I've seen this evening, it was a lot of vehicles that started off with being set alight, and some of those have spread to the houses. As I said, there were also reports of around 100 masked men in one area of Belfast going down a street, kicking in doors and breaking windows, saying they wanted the migrants out. So it's under the assumption that some of these houses may have been targeted. And again, it's something that's going to come to clarity in the morning, because we have seen this with the previous unrest across the city. And as the story develops, we'll be keeping in touch.
And do we know any more about the victim at this stage?
In terms of the victim, the latest update was still no information other than he was in his 40s, but we do know that he is still in a serious condition in hospital. The police have again urged people not to speculate online and to not share that graphic footage that was released after the attack last night, in hopes of, preserving the evidence and, of course, sparing people having to see it.
Yeah, we've decided not to show it at all. Kiva, thank you very much indeed for joining me. I really appreciate it. That's Kiva Quinn there, broadcast journalist with you, 105 in Belfast. Right, back to the calls now, and Peter is in Dorset. Peter, good evening.
Good evening to you, Petrie.
What do you make of all this?
The situation with the British people, as far as I can see at the moment, is that it doesn't matter which way they look, from the judiciary, from the sentences passed down, to the way they're being treated by the police, to the fact that they can't get themselves a council house, to the fact that they can't get their benefits, the fact that nobody for the last 20 years is listening about migration. It is not about, we're not in a situation anymore where we're talking about whether there is somebody's deciding to have a policy about someone's going to have a bit more tax here or a bit less tax there. We are now talking about fundamental treatment of the British people down to their boots, and they can't take it anymore. And we have seen in Southampton, we have now seen in Belfast, and in my view, this is only the beginning. And I'll tell you something else. I believe that this situation is going to bubble over all over the country. I think the police are going to be absolutely overrun. They can't run anything anyway, even without this stuff going on. And I believe that we are already over the cusp. And when we've got a government, I can't call them a government. I'm sorry. They're a bunch of heinous comedians. That is basically what they are. I mean, I have never seen such incompetence from a selection of people, calling them a cabinet, in all my life, and I'm close to 70. And I, as long as they are going to have their disastrous policies and there's going to be no listening, I believe they're going to have problems, and all they're going to be able to say is, oh, well, we must have calm, because there's nothing else I think there's going to be left to do, because I don't think the police are going to be able to cope with this. At the moment, we've got these 2 incidences have happened, and there is so much anger, and as long as there are people, while we're practically speaking now, Petrie, turning up on the south coast of England in boats, and whilst we're eating our breakfast, lunch and supper, it's going on. Whilst this is going on and nobody is listening, and everybody is been treated as second-class citizens in this country who have lived here and fought for this country, and anything else that's of goodness that you want to say, we have got a serious problem here. And this is a problem that, as far as I'm concerned, as long as there's a government called Labour in at the moment, I'm afraid this is going to continue. There is no one out there listening. And if nobody listens, this is what's going to happen.
I'm afraid I agree with you completely that people, this is I've said this for a very long time as well, the inaction and the lack of hearing what people are saying, right? They just seem to be tone deaf, all of them, actually. There doesn't seem to be any complete understanding, or if there is an understanding, perhaps they just don't know what to do. Maybe that's it, that they're sounding incompetent because there's nothing they can do. What can they do?
Well, they're just going along on their same old Fabian bandwagon and their net zeros. They haven't. They are up in their heads, are up in the clouds, and they have absolutely no way of retracting them down out of the clouds. And that is a big problem. And we have such fundamentally a wonderful country. We have such wonderful people in this country of all races, creeds, you name it. The power of the people here is phenomenal. And what people have done who have legally migrated to this country and what they've given to this country is unbelievable. And those people who have fought their way into society and fought their way up the ladder and got themselves in here just don't deserve this, apart from people who fought for this country, for people who have worked all their lives in this country, who are decent people, and they cannot take this snubbery anymore. And that is what's happening.
I agree, and I do think that the politicians bring this upon themselves when they seem to be living in a different world to the rest of us, and so I completely agree with you, Peter. Brilliant call. Thank you very much indeed. I've just got some breaking news here, more global breaking news. In the last 20 minutes, the US military has said it's begun launching self-defense strikes against Iran. Explosions have been heard in several areas of Iran, its state media has reported. It comes after the US military said it began launching self-defense strikes against Iran in retaliation for the downing of a US Army Apache helicopter yesterday that was working on the Strait of Hormuz. The Fars news agency said several explosions were heard in eastern areas of Hormozgan, including Kosak, Sirik and Minab. So those are the areas that are being bombed. Because the Americans are calling this self-defense strikes, they will argue that the ceasefire has not been broken. But like I said, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So that's the latest going on in the Middle East. We will keep you up to date with what's going on around Britain as well, and in Belfast. I've got a message here from somebody in Glasgow who's telling me that there's something kicking off there as well. So I'll give you more details on that as we go through the evening. But in the meantime, a quick break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi, good evening to you. This is Talk and it's Petrie here with you. We're still keeping an eye on events happening in Belfast. We know that the police and the fire services are in attendance to a couple of houses that have set fire, and the cars as well that are around. The police in Northern Ireland Police Service NI are very well rehearsed in this sort of behaviour, and they are out in force across the city of Belfast, but we'll keep you up to date with that. We're also going to be discussing this, of course, at midnight, and I'm taking your calls through the show as well. So I'd like to hear from you. Are we Tinderbox Britain now? It feels like we're really, I don't know, it feels like we're right up, the cup is full, isn't it? And these things keep happening in quick succession, and you can barely catch your breath. And I want to know how you think the politicians are responding to this. Are you satisfied with the response from politicians? And what would you want from politicians at this stage? Do give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Before we go back to your calls, Andy Lown joins me now, our space expert, because Artemis 3, NASA has revealed the 4 astronaut crew for the 2027 Artemis 3 mission. Andy, good to see you. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Andy, talk to me about the astronauts. They all seem to be well deserving of their places there.
Oh, they do. We've got Randy Bresnik, who's going to be the commander. 11 days aboard the International Space Station on STS-129 Space Shuttle mission. So he's he's quite experienced. Andre Douglas, he was the backup for Artemis 2 originally, I believe, and he was actually going to be he's going to be there as a mission specialist, and again he's an expert in various areas and things. Has a doctorate in systems engineering from Washington University. And we've got Frank Rubio, who people who follow space know him very well. 371 days in space on board the International Space Station, a staggering record. But of course, Gabriella will be more interested to know that Luca Parmitano is.
She's
is
very
an Italian
excited.
astronaut.
Yeah, Gabriella's my producer, by the way, and she's very excited that there's an Italian on board.
Astronaut. He's in space before, of course, so he's experienced. He's got over 2,000 hours flying time across over 40 types of aircraft. He's an expert, which is going on there. He's acted as Capcom, Captain of Communications, and training ESA, European Space Agency, astronauts for spacewalks and robotic operations. So he's a real expert. And the whole point of Artemis 3, as you can see the picture behind me, shows it's going to dock with hopefully one or two, if preferably, of the chosen landers that's going to put people on the moon in Artemis 4. The problem with that is neither of the landers are fully ready yet. The SpaceX version, which is a real big, chunky, big piece of kit, that's a bit of a ways away yet. Plus, we have the issue now that Blue Origin's lander has to be launched by New Glenn, and New Glenn exploded on the launch pad, destroying its launch pad and the rocket. The problem is they need to rebuild the launch pad, get the rocket ready. So they're being pushed against the time. But NASA will continue as per normal to get the Orion spacecraft and the SLS system working, ready to put them into orbit. And they have to practice the docking in Earth orbit, which is the safe thing to do, very similar to what they did on Apollo 9 back in the 1960s, before you attempt to put people on the moon.
So with the lander, explain to me briefly what the lander is. So people will fly up to the lander will take them to the moon.
They will dock with the lander, and that's where they'll transfer to the lander, and they will separate from the Orion spacecraft, and the lander then will drop onto the surface of the moon, and then the astronauts can walk onto the moon and do their work, and then they'll return to the Orion spacecraft, which will then return them to the Earth. Very similar to Apollo in many ways, because you had the lunar excursion module.
So the lander will go back up to the aircraft or to the craft, and then the craft will come home.
And then transfer people over again and then return to the Earth. Yeah. So the lander is essentially throwaway.
And they'll be up there for 3 weeks.
Yes, they'll be doing a lot of it. Essentially, this is the docking procedures that they want to do. They want to test everything out, even things where it could go wrong, which is very important to deliberately make things go wrong. So how you respond to them, how does the equipment respond to it, docking procedures. They'll even practice new styles of docking procedures, because if you've got two types of spacecraft that you're going to dock with, then it might be actually very different in flight characteristics, even when in Earth orbit. So you need to understand the implications of that. And the SpaceX one, the HLS, when that flies, is a big object. It's a big mass. So that's a big mass, and you've got a little mass docking onto it. So you've got to see how that works. Whereas the Blue Origin one is a much smaller mass. So you've got very, very different flight characteristics. So hopefully, sometime next year, this mission's going to go ahead, and we're going to see some rather dramatic images of them docking their spacecraft.
Oh, I can't wait. It's some good news for a change. Hey, Andy, it's going to be exciting. I know you and I will be very excited about it.
Yeah,
anyway.
I tell you something, it feels like the 1960s again, doesn't it? There's a war in Asia, there's riots on the streets, and we're going to the moon.
Yeah, nothing changes. Nothing.
Yeah, didn't it?
Andy, good to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining me. Andy Lound, our space expert there. Right, time to take another call just before the top of the hour. And David, who's a new caller, has called from Edinburgh. Good evening to you, David.
Good evening.
So tell me, are we Tinderbox Britain now?
Well, I actually think we are. To be perfectly honest with you, I think that the way this government's going, I served for Queen and Country in the Royal Air Force, and to be perfectly honest with you, if I knew then what I know now, yep, I would have reservations about joining the Air Force.
Really?
And I had many years, good times in the Air Force, but I would seriously think twice about joining the Air Force now, to the way the state of the country is. My grandfather, my great uncle fought for this country, D-Day landings, the whole lot.
Wow.
And would these men even go across to fight in France, to free France nowadays?
There's so much has changed, hasn't it? But it's always been the case, hasn't it, that politicians make decisions that we've all got to live with. and they don't seem to listen to us. It doesn't matter what you do at the elections or you at the polling. It does.
Sorry, interrupt you. There was an old saying years ago that old men make wars, young men fight them.
Young men die in them.
True.
Yeah, it is true.
You know, but what's going on in Ireland now with these immigrants coming across? Now, I have nothing against immigrants. If you come across in this country legally and you integrate into our system, because this is our country, and pay your taxes.
Which so many do. So many do. If you look at the Sikh community, for example, everybody was talking about last week, they're the most integrated.
But if they come across in a boat and for some reason they don't have a passport, and according to the Labour government, they're either nurses, engineers or doctors, where they get that from, because there's no bloody passports. Sorry, excuse me for saying bloody.
That's all right.
It's an absolutely ridiculous situation. Greece,
but they're also not being honest with us, and that's what I'm sick of. It's the lack of honesty. It's the all immigrants are equal, all immigrants are great, and that we know that isn't true. And I'm sorry, if you break the law or you commit a crime as an immigrant, you should expect to have to leave the country. As simple as that.
Yeah, of course, deport them. And all these do-gooders that, you can't deport them for this, you can't deport them for that. And I believe there was somebody that didn't get deported because his child didn't like
chicken nuggets or something.
Yes, exactly. That
It was chicken nuggets.
Yeah.
I remember that case. Yeah.
What the heck? What was that about? Absolute nonsense. Whoever thought that one up, honest to God, he would get Jack the Ripper off with a criminal case. He really would.
Yeah, I'd like him to be my lawyer if I'm ever in trouble.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. They need to. I mean, there's no war in France, so what are they fleeing from?
Yeah, well, before Brexit, we could send them back. That's the annoying thing.
That's true.
That is true. I mean, look, it's time for action. I'm so bored of everybody, and this is why. And the angrier and the angrier people get without action, without seeing something happen, that will be the politicians' fault, and they can blame the people as much as they want to, but it is going to be on their heads if people do decide to riot. Not that that is ever the right thing to do. To violence upon violence that doesn't solve anything. But I understand why people feel like this when they don't feel listened to. David, excellent first call. Please don't make it your last. Do call again. I'm going to be taking calls all through, so please line yourself up. 0344 499 1000. Claire Muldoon is next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there and a good evening to you. If you've just joined the programme, I want to bring you the latest on Belfast. Of course, this is the 11 o'clock in the evening, so if you're listening to this again in the morning, then there will be updates, of course, on The Breakfast Show with Jeremy Kyle. So this is of 11 o'clock on Tuesday evening. Violence in Belfast has continued with protesters on the streets following a stabbing in the city. Houses, cars and buses have been set on fire following an anti-immigration demonstration. It was in response to a man in his 40s being attacked with a knife last night, and footage emerging of that incident on social media. We've decided as an organisation to not show those images. The 30-year-old Sudanese man has now been charged with attempted murder and is to appear in court on Wednesday, so tomorrow morning, but on Wednesday. Northern Ireland's First Minister has slammed the attacks happening during protests in Belfast. Michelle O'Neill wrote in a post on social media, "Groups of masked men burning families out of their homes is nothing less than disgusting cowardice. This has nothing to do with community. This is outright thuggery." Sinn Féin politicians also said there was no justification for the attacks, adding that racism, intimidation and violence are wrong. And I'm just looking at images on my screens now of a nighttime Belfast. So these are live from now from a helicopter, and it is very clear to see plumes and plumes of smoke coming up into the skyline with rows of what looks like it could be fire engines. It's very difficult to tell at this stage, but they're definitely blue lights. There's fire services there. I can see them hosing down a building on the right of the screen, so clearly another building was set alight, and they are working hard to put that fire out. I can see several firemen there, or firewomen, fire people, firing into the house where a fire is blazing. It looks like it's coming from inside the house as opposed to being started outside the house. Difficult to see, like I said, from this angle, but the fire service is there working in unison with the police service. They always go hand in hand in Belfast to protect them, and they're working to put those fires out. But there are several fires across Belfast at the moment as cars and indeed a bus was set alight. We're going to be discussing this, of course, through the programme, so if you'd like to join in and tell me, are we Tinderbox Britain? I mean, it just feels, doesn't it, that these things are coming in rapid succession now, that we can barely catch our breath without the next bit of violence that is being inked out, or we're seeing scenes that we just don't believe that we're seeing, like with the Novak case. So I'd like to hear from you if you think we really are on the edge, and what would you want I'm sick of politicians just speaking, right? I want action, and they don't seem to be able to carry out any action. And at the moment, I'm afraid the Labour government is just absolutely eunuched. There is nothing going on there apart from Keir Starmer concerning himself with if he's still going to be Prime Minister, Andy Burnham trying to become Prime Minister, Wes Streeting trying to become Prime Minister. I don't believe they're paying much attention. They can talk the talk, but they're not walking the walk, because let's face it, they haven't even got their boots on. So do give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you back, and you can text as well, as many of you are doing. I will get to your texts at some point, I promise. Text the word talk and your message to 87222. Well, joining me to discuss this latest story, and indeed to look at the papers, which I'm sure we'll all be able to understand what's on the front pages, is the fabulous Claire Muldoon, who's broadcaster. Hello, Claire. Lovely to see you.
Hi, lovely to see you too, Petrie. How are you?
Well, I mean, this has just got... I was saying to Gabriella before the show in the newsroom, my producer, it feels bad for this summer, right? I've just got a bad feeling. I've got a really bad feeling that the ineptitude of politicians and the lack of grasping just how angry people are, I fear for what's going to happen going forward.
I agree with you, and I also think the lambasting of people like Farage, who are speaking on behalf of his constituents for a start, who seems to have a finger on the pulse of feeling in the country. People are more concerned about him stoking hate and protests than actually dealing with the crux of the matter. And even Michelle O'Neill today, I thought she gave a very withered response, and Hilary Benn in Parliament gave very withered responses to actually what happened in Belfast. And remember, I've got skin in the game here. One of my daughters lives there, works there, and she was sent an information piece from a police chap that she knows, and to say, look, we're basically putting Belfast and Bangor, where she is, into lockdown, and these are the streets that are going to be affected through intelligence and through. Don't forget, they've been through this before.
Oh, so many
with
times.
All the troubles, so many times. So they're very well versed on what can happen and probably what will happen. And we've seen the footage tonight of the buses being set alight. These are £500,000 public service buses that are needed to take people to work, that are needed to keep the infrastructure of Belfast running. And we've got these idiots setting them alight because, of course, what they're doing is pooling the resources from the emergency response units to the incident that they are causing, and therefore the police, etc., will not be able to handle domestic abuse issues, or other fights, or thefts, or burglaries. And also, Caitlin said tonight that there's reports that there's masked men stopping cars with immigrants in it.
I mean, that is terrifying, right?
That is absolutely terrifying. There is no need for that. There's no need to step down to the level of the barbaric attempt from that Sudanese man on that poor man from Belfast. That was just disgusting. And I'm really pleased as a station you've taken the editorial decision not to show the footage, because it's harrowing.
It is absolutely awful. I just, in good conscience, I don't think it serves any purpose, really.
No, it really doesn't. And we remember as well, Lee, the soldier, Lee Ridges, was it? Or Lee
Rigby.
Ridges? Rigby, sorry. That was macheted by another Sudanese man. This is just, it needs to stop. It really does.
But the thing is, though, whilst, of course, we have to condemn the sort of violence that we're seeing in Belfast, it doesn't mean I'm not cognizant of why it's happening. It is horrendous. But I think that our politicians have to take the blame for this. They have to take the blame for not hearing what people are saying, for not listening to and not understanding the anger that there is in the country. And because they're not understanding it, and they're saying we're calling for calm and all those things, and it just feels like words again, words.
Platitudes always. And it's almost as if that Starmer is trying to appease the liberals of this country, appease the people who think immigration is a really positive thing. In this case, it's not. That's the problem. And they're not addressing that. And they seem to be like minimising it almost so they don't have for fear of reprisal. But I'm sorry, you look at Glasgow, my hometown tonight, and from 6 o'clock, people were queuing up, protesting at the Buchanan Galleries, placards out. They were protesting in Ayr.
Yeah.
Ayr is one of the smallest towns in Scotland. Up and down in London as well. Up and down the country, it's the same. And then over in Belfast. And I really fear for the people of Belfast, because the issues are going to turn up about that soft border between the north and the south. and it's going to open up a huge can of worms.
Yeah, we were talking to Kiva Quinn, who's a journalist in Belfast earlier on, and she said, "Look, we're so well versed in this that we know that this is with us for the next few days. This will escalate. This will, because the guy's he's in court." Tomorrow. So, you know, just the scenes around the courthouse, I can imagine. And like you said, the police are so well experienced, unfortunately, with this in Belfast. But still, it's a very volatile situation. And people are taking advantage of that, right? I mean, it would be naive to say that there weren't, you know, people who are loving the thuggery and getting involved in it to that degree. But I don't. I mean, look, it's typical of a journalist. I don't. I know what's being done wrong. I just don't necessarily know what should be done right. But I think that politicians and like I said, the Labour government, they're not even concentrating. They're not really dealing with this, and we need actions, not words. It's beyond time now.
I mean, we've got a man in number 10 Downing Street that thought it was okay to invite the Novak family publicly to 10 Downing Street. Now, I thought that was very off in optic. I thought he ought to have gone down to Southampton and met with them privately. Perhaps the family wanted to make it quite a public visit to number 10. But even that, surely after what they've been through, 6 months after the event, not long after the sentencing of Digba, you know, to have such a prominent public courting of them, I thought was really off. And he can't even defend the country, with the military or through defence. We are indefensible at the moment.
I know.
And his actions merely now domestically are just reaffirming that.
Yeah, I mean, I can feel the frustration that is mounting, and I really am afraid that we're going to get this sort of almost wildcat rioting, you know, so that one will spread to another, like we saw with Mark Duggan, right, where that spread across the country, as more and more people try to take advantage of it, and want
with the looting and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Want to cause trouble and just want to vent their anger at something, anything. But also a lot of common decent people are very angry at the moment and are frustrated by not being heard. And I don't know why politicians seem to be so distant from us.
I also think that people are reticent about actually admitting publicly, and I don't mean on platforms like we are privileged to have, but even publicly, between themselves, between friends, between family, that they do feel anger over what's happened, that they do feel angry about our liberty being infringed, that they do feel angry about our country being taken over by thugs that are not integrating, that are not part of our culture. And I say that with the utmost respect for people who do try and integrate, who do try and help themselves and make themselves a better life, because that's why they're here, or you would want to believe that that's why they're here. Yeah. But in the cases of what we've just witnessed, especially in Belfast, I'm afraid I can't see it from that view at all.
No,
at all.
And we've also got to stop pussyfooting around when people, of course, we can't talk about specific because there's been arrests and things like that.
Yeah.
But when people do break the law in this country, they need to not be allowed in this country anymore. I don't see the problem with that. I've never understood that. If you're a guest if I was a guest in your house and I started smashing up your furniture and your stuff, I wouldn't be welcome in your house anymore. And that's normal, right? That is to be expected. So I don't, and I think a lot of these lawyers have got a lot to answer for, because it should just be absolutely no question on a range of laws. I mean, not a parking ticket or whatever, but a serious law is broken, you're gone. That's it. Simple. Don't care.
Well, it should be. But you've got this case, and it's reported, I think, in the Telegraph today, that the suspect of the attempted murder in Belfast, who has been charged with attempted murder, apparently came from Paris to Dublin and made use of the soft border between the north and the south and got through via a bus route and then claimed asylum through Britain because Northern Ireland is factually part of the UK. And, you know, you need to wonder, how did that happen? Apparently his leave to remain is valid until 2028.
He got a 5-year visa. Yeah, there's a lot to be answered, and there are just always
and I don't
more
think
questions.
he's an isolated case.
No.
I really don't.
No, I would be very, very surprised.
And he's not here with his wife and children, is he?
No,
He's not
and all
here,
the systems seem to just be failing, right? Every single system that ever we're told is in place, it just seems to just completely fail.
You talk about systems. Look what was happening yesterday. The Defence Alert, the Royal Navy, hunter-killer submarines fleet docked. Defence briefing, UK stealth fleet at risk amid budget row. And then the investigation report of misappropriation of UK taxpayers' funds during COVID.
Given to terrorists.
Yes.
Everything, just don't. I wish we had a bottle of wine and I could swear, because that's how I feel right now. I've got to take a quick break, Claire, but we're back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here with you. Just some latest from Belfast. Protesters have been attacking police vehicles with objects. Protesters also set fire to a Middle Eastern supermarket. And the police said in their latest update on the situation, they're dealing with sporadic pockets of disorder across the country. The First Minister has reacted tonight saying that this was a disgusting cowardice. So that's the latest coming from Belfast. And there's some images where you can see smoke plumes coming up into the sky. With me to look through the papers is Claire Muldoon. And the Times, Claire, refugee charged with medieval knife attack. That's on the Times front page. Again, we've redacted the images there because they're pretty gross, actually. So I guess we just, on this particular case, we have to wait until we've got more information, because we don't know anything about the victim either, apart from he's 40 and is in a critical condition. So we really don't know much about this. Images though of the brave passers-by with a hurling stick.
Hurling stick, yeah.
Yeah. Which is, I don't think I've ever seen a hurling stick before. Yeah, they intervened, which is incredibly brave, actually, to that.
Very brave.
Yeah.
Very brave.
Seriously.
And I think they must have been in such shock. The adrenaline must have been running through them because they were witnessing something so harrowing and witnessing something that they obviously have never seen before, would never want to see again.
Yeah.
But
like you said, it is reminiscent of it's reminiscent of the Lee Rigby.
Yeah.
Where he tried to behead him as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
It's not normal behaviour.
It's not normal behaviour, no, absolutely not.
And that has to be addressed as well.
Completely. Completely. I just don't even understand how I don't know. The other front page news is I broke a little while ago is Trump vowing retribution. In fact, they've already started. This is a little out of date now. This front page news because Donald Trump is hitting back at Iran after an Apache helicopter was downed at the Strait of Hormuz. Yes. It's worrying, isn't it? Because I mean, I don't know how anyone can say that's not a break of the ceasefire.
Well, of course, and as far as I'm aware, Israel are still bombing Lebanon.
Of course, yeah.
Because Trump was not happy with Netanyahu and told him such. And the whole thing.
The idea that Trump thinks he's calling the shots is what is fascinating to me.
Well, but even still, where are the United Nations? I mean, we know we've got NATO meetings next month or the end of this month. Really, the heads need to be banged together and we need a solution to this.
Yeah.
Because Iran cannot cope with the volume of oil that they're not getting rid of. And the Straits of Hormuz, I mean, Russia is still laughing its head off.
Oh, yeah. They're doing really well out of this, aren't they? Unbelievable that they should be doing so well out of it.
And they're being enabled.
Yeah. Exactly. The Telegraph goes with obviously the same story from Belfast. But their sidebar story is we must raise taxes to fund defence.
Says Reeves. This goes back to, Pat McFadden's message in the Mandelson papers about he's fed up with people asking him to tax from someone to give to the other. This is just it. I mean...
we can't be taxed anymore, surely.
No, we can't. We really can't. So she's going to have to take it off somewhere. The bulging welfare state.
Well, they've said no, haven't they?
Yes.
They've said absolutely you're not touching the welfare state.
So where is she going to get the money from? She cannot tax people, working people, as they call us, any more than they actually are. They cannot remove any more money out of the economy because the economy is just going to fall flat on its face and we'll be heading for a recession. We've already seen flats in London dip into negative equity, some of them. Some of the even new builds, and that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I mean, she said that the Chancellor said that pressure to fund the sector was only going in one direction, as she ruled out borrowing more to pay for the government's multi-billion-pound investment plan. Ms Reeves signalled that raising taxes to increase defence spending was better than adding to Britain's nearly $3 trillion debt pile, which she said would push up borrowing costs. I would argue...
Did you mention the headroom in that there?
Oh, the fiscal headroom.
Yeah.
I would argue that despite the pain of higher taxes, it's better to do that than to get into a situation we were in before. Really? She doesn't feel the pain the rest of us feel then?
Well, I think because she's a bit like her boss. She's a bit robotic. She doesn't feel pain.
No.
She might be an amoeba, a single-celled animal, mammal. She just doesn't... Pain, what's that?
What's that? She doesn't get it. They don't get it. This is the other thing. They don't get it. And any more taxation on people is just going to, that piles onto the feeling of frustration and anger.
Yeah. And then you've got that nutter that's charged of the Green Party, Zach Polanski, coming out and saying 7p for veg is actually unfair and unwarranted and, unjust. What? What are you on, man?
I don't know. I don't know.
Exactly. Over, Henry Novak's murder and this happening in Belfast. No one from the Greens has come out, and yet they didn't shut up before the local elections, did they?
No, exactly right. I'm so fed up with all of them. I really am.
Me too.
The Metro, historic day for victims terrified by train pests.
This is an extraordinary story,
What a horrible bloke.
And it happened at London Bridge.
Yeah, just there, literally.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So this young woman was targeted by a convicted stalker, and he kept harassing her. In fact, he pulled her hair at one point and said, "You're magical," and then asked her for a kiss. Demanded a kiss from her. And he said it was just bad timing, that they'd just broken in the law. They just brought the law in and he got caught.
Oh, for goodness sake. Yeah, bad timing for whom, actually?
Yeah. She's absolutely terrified now to travel by train.
She's got PTSD because of it. Of course, I get that.
Yeah. I totally get it as well. So this is a new law, a sexual harassment law, and he was arrested when they got into the station because she was on the phone to her boyfriend, and her boyfriend called Transport Police, and the police were waiting for him when they arrived, and he was arrested. But he got 22 months sentenced for both offences, that's the stalking offence as well, received a 12-month community order.
Oh.
What's the point of
cleaning
that?
trains, of making him giving him more contact with innocent women?
Yeah. I mean community. This is the other thing.
Was he not a convicted stalker beforehand?
Yes, he was, yeah.
So he's got form.
He's got form, yeah. But no, he's still got community order. Yeah, great. Terrific.
Lock him up.
Yeah.
Chop his bits off.
The Eye, police plead for calm after knife attack as far-right push for protests across
even
Britain.
that headline from the MSM, it's not fair to keep categorising people who are angry as being far-right, and that's the way this reads.
It is the way it reads. I'm not sure that's what they mean, but it is definitely how it reads.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, again, it's just not helpful, is it at all?
No, it's not. Officers under attack. A serious disorder breaks out in Belfast with no reasoning why serious disorder is breaking out in Belfast.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not journalism.
No.
That's, making a statement, an editorial statement on the front page of your paper, which ironically is named it's not the Independent, it's
the Eye.
It's the Eye.
Impartial news, intelligent debate. That's what it says.
No, that's what we give.
Although it's got a picture of James O'Brien on the top. Anyway. The Guardian.
Irony of ironies.
The irony of ironies. The Guardian. Violence erupts in Belfast. Extraordinary photograph there of that bus that you were talking about. It's called a glider. And it was a sort of a double-barrel bus. Remember the bendy buses we had in London? It's similar to that. Although, obviously, clearly works in Belfast as they didn't work in London. But a bus set ablaze. This is what, as you were saying earlier, Claire, I just don't understand why setting fire to something that belongs to the public, public expense, is really of any help to anybody.
Well, it's to draw out the emergency services because they know that it's a dangerous thing to do. They know it's possibly going to inflame. Well, clearly it's inflame. I don't mean that facetiously. But, it's full of diesel or fuel, or even if it's an electric bus, there's something there that could catch even greater fire that might spread. So they need to draw the emergency services out to focus on that, whilst the rest of the protesters run and cause skullduggery in the rat runs, because the streets in Belfast are very narrow. It's like a grid system as well, some of them. So it's very easy. It's like a rat run to go right through to residential streets, to go up and down the city, which isn't large. It's not a big city, and cause all sorts of issues and problems that are going to run, like you've said earlier, into days. This will run straight into the weekend.
Yeah, unfortunately, because already, like you were saying, the gangs are kicking in doors and windows of houses as they're just running up and down streets, just wantonly causing damage and violence, and also the Eye. The Independent, sorry, plea for calm after sickening Belfast street knife attack. And I do question the papers for putting, although they've pixelated some of the image, but it's not difficult to see what they're showing. I do question that on a front page. I think that's a bit I don't know. It'll be a bit shocking for some people. Let's take a break, Claire. I'll be back in just a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and you're with Petrie, and with me is the fabulous Claire Muldoon. Look, the World Cup literally kicks off on Thursday. And the Mirror has gone with refused entry. The football world reacted with fury after the World Cup referee from Africa was banned from the US. Now, my understanding is that this Omar Artan is one of the best referees in the world, and is very well thought of. But America said no, and there's no right of appeal. He doesn't get to appeal. He doesn't know why. Nobody knows why he's been refused entry. He managed to get to Miami, I believe, and was refused.
After an 11-hour, what's it called?
Flight.
No. He was held up in.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, in interrogation for 11 hours in Miami.
God.
But I love the headline. Ref used.
Yeah, very clever.
Entry, very clever. But there's Scottish fans that have been refused at the US Embassy. It was actually on talkSPORT in Andy Goldstein's show, and this Scot. It couldn't get his visa. He applied for his ESTA. He went to New York in the ESTA, thought that was fine to go again, because as you know, they're valid for 1 or 2 years or whatever it is. And then when he went to get something, the US Embassy said, no, you need extra special checks on it. So they are being, it's not just him. And, you know, Somalia is on their watch list. No wonder after what they did in Minnesota, I have to say. But, you know, surely FIFA, if he is that good, if they want him that much, he might be able to get in a professional capacity, which companies can do to get you into America to work. So I'm not reading too much into it. I don't think he's got the red card yet. I think he might actually make a move. But if not, then he has to question and raise questions as to why.
Well, FIFA has
America are not doing it.
FIFA has to get involved and just say, look, this is, and also with the Scottish fans, because there's a lot of fans from around the world who have bought tickets. They've spent thousands of pounds on these tickets. They've pre-booked.
Which is another horrible thing.
Yeah, they've pre-booked
the price of them.
Exactly, it's disgusting. They've pre-booked hotel rooms that they'll have to pay for, and they're being refused entry for no particular reason.
No rhyme or reason.
Yeah, and that is just going to. I mean, the whole thing is just leaving a sour taste. This should be the biggest sporting event in the world that everybody gets behind, and it's already feeling a bit sour.
Yeah, but I mean, don't worry about us Scots, because don't forget, those living in Scotland, the King has assented an extra bank holiday. That's
true.
all they need.
Should we go and move to Scotland? Just to get a bank holiday?
No, because the SNP are in charge.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't get bank holidays anyway.
No. No, that's true. We don't.
And it's only if you're public sector, and only 32 councils have turned around and said no. And surprisingly, non-surprisingly, Glasgow, Renfrewshire, and a few others have said yes. So schools will be closed, hospitals will be shut. You know, loads of things they just don't even think about. And the game is actually on a Saturday night into Sunday morning.
Oh, is it? So they don't need them. They don't need a bank holiday.
No, they don't.
Well, for the hangover on Monday.
Well, you can't say that because Susanna Reid's now got into trouble with Good Morning Britain because she made a similar comment.
Oh.
And of course, all the Scots are now going, what are you saying? We're stereotyping for us for being drinkers.
No, because the English drink as well.
Of course they do. Well, look at your cricketer.
Yeah, quite. The Daily Express again goes with the attack in Belfast, and the headline.
A different take on it, though.
Yeah, different take on it. The very best of humanity. Residents praised for taking on Belfast street knife attacker. Victims suffered serious injuries. So 3 heroes rushed to save the man at risk of being beheaded by a knife attack and have been praised for being the very best of humanity, and they do deserve that, because that would have been a terrifying situation to go into, right?
Awful. I mean, if what is reported actually happened, then it's just too bad for words. I can't even imagine what that would have looked like.
No, I mean, and like you said, it's the shock of that as well. You don't. That's not something you see,
No.
and so it's like it's puzzling and shocking, and frankly terrifying. There's some going back to the Telegraph. Don't coddle children. Bridget Phillipson has warned parents against coddling their children because it shields them from the real world. Education Secretary said children should be encouraged to take the bus to school and go on bike rides with friends. Like we did.
Yeah. And I can't believe I've actually agreed with Lord Hermer in the sense of sending the appeal for the rapist back to the appeals court. And now Bridget Phillipson's coming out with a bit of common sense. My goodness me, what is happening?
The world is on its head. The world
is completely and utterly on its head.
It is extraordinary, isn't it?
I don't think she's a particularly effective education minister. I doubt if she's obviously read books because she had a very good education. But actually, for her to come out and say this, I'm thinking, wow, I'm actually quite impressed, because it's true. Kids should. I've said this to you before, and you understand this because you have the same ilk. Kids now they just don't know how to manage risk.
No.
Everything is risk-free. I mean, even from their scooters, wear a helmet, you've got to do this, that, and the next thing. And the car seats now for kids are like cars within cars.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just awful. I had booster seats for mine, and then the minute they got to the restriction, they were toughed out, because that's not real life.
No, exactly.
I do love my children.
I know you do. But we are of the ilk, as you said, that we did go out on bike rides. That was, we were kicked out of the house.
We knew when to come in when the street lights went on.
Yeah, it's true. And everybody thinks that is just some
holidays.
kind of expression, but it is absolutely true. The summer holidays were just feral. Completely feral. But we did learn about risk. We did learn about, I'm surprised any of us survived the childhood that I had, frankly.
I know. We used to go up, where I was brought up in Milton of Campsie, there was all the Campsie Hills, it was beautiful. And we used to go up to a place called the Wells. We used to minnow fish and things like that with really rubbish wee fishing rods. And, so there was water there.
Yeah,
and we used to take up a blanket and a flask and sit down there and just, have a really nice time. And being bitten alive by midges, and then need to watch out for the rain, and then, come back and then don't know where you've left your bike, and then put your sandal in a big cow pat, and you used to come home stinking.
Yeah.
But it was great fun.
Yeah, and it did teach us about being resilient. It taught us about trust and friendships and freedom to make those mistakes. Yeah. And not a mobile phone between us, right?
I know.
And some of the toys that we had, the clackers, do you remember those?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
So dangerous. That was so dangerous. I don't know.
Take the tip of your finger off it.
God,
but it didn't really harm us, did it?
No. There was one pair that was that for years and years and years and years. I don't know if it's still there, but there was a pair of clackers that somebody had obviously thrown up in the air, and it got wrapped around a cable across the street, and it was there for years. I mean, like well after I'd grown up and left, it was still hanging from the wire across the road. But it is interesting, isn't it? Don't coddle children. The trouble is that a lot of parents believe that their children are safer at home and online, which we now know they're not.
They're not, and that's why the impact as well tutoring has on kids. And I'm so of this. I am so firm on this. The more you tutor your child, the less likely they are able to cope when they leave home to go to college or university, or even just when they leave home, because everything has been managed for them. Their time has been managed. Their education has been managed for them. You need to let kids find their way. And you'll find that cream does rise to the top, and they don't need it all. And all you are doing is supplementing the staff that are supposed to be there to teach for all, and it's not. You're giving such an unfair advantage to your child, actually, against everyone, and that's not what life's about.
No, and you're right about time being managed. With clubs and things like that. We didn't. The worst thing you could say in my house to my Scottish mother was, "I'm bored," because then you got chores, or you got boring people aboard. Find something to do, or I'll find something for you to do. And so it was like, right, I'm not bored. I'm fine.
Yeah, exactly.
I was one of 5 as well, so there was always somebody to muck about with.
Punch.
Yeah, to punch. Yeah, usually.
Clack.
To clack.
Give me your tongue.
I used to do with my little sister when she was very, very young.
You did.
She's actually staying with me at the moment.
She's still alive?
Yeah.
Is she?
But when she was tiny, because I'm 10 years older than her, and we always used to creep up behind her when she was a toddler and attach pegs to her back and see how many pegs we could attach to her. And she would just be a little toddler, and she'd have as many pegs as we could get without her noticing.
Not onto her skin.
Not onto her skin. No.
Not onto her skin.
No.
Oh.
Although when she destroyed my girl's world, I did make her be my girl's world.
What, did she cut all the hair off of it?
And she used felt tip. Spot on. So she had to pay for that, and she's never forgotten it. Still never wears eyeliner. Trauma. Claire, got to take a break. Pack it in bag.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it is Petrie here with you, and just some information on the victim of the attack that happened in Belfast. A man aged in his 40s has remained in a serious condition in hospital Tuesday, receiving treatment for serious eye, face and back wounds. There is still no more information on who this person is, and I'm guessing that his privacy is being protected at this point. We will know more about the alleged attacker on Wednesday, tomorrow, as he will be in court. So we will find out a little bit more information about the alleged attacker. And Claire Muldoon is with me, and the Daily Mail as well. A Sudanese knife attack suspect got asylum after taking backdoor to the UK. So there will be, as you said, Claire, much to answer for on that, and lots of questions will be asked about that. What stories have you seen?
Right, so, but just before we leave just below the mast of the Daily Mail, the land I lust and what your garden really thinks of you. I'm very much into Rivals at the moment. I've just finished the current season, and this is just so up there with it, and it's such a bit of light relief. Just thought I'd let you.
Well, I don't have a gardener that looks like that.
I don't have a garden.
Well, I just
barely a lady garden.
Yeah, you're so naughty. But yeah, he is. He's quite hot. I'm my gardener, and I know what I think of me. But I haven't watched Rivals yet. I mean, I watched the first season, but I haven't watched the second one. And because
it's just superb.
I just have a real problem with watching a series. I don't know. I'm a commitment phobe, and I've watched one series and I think, well, I've seen that now. I don't need to see it again. But also it breaks until November. It's mid-season, isn't it? So I might wait. I might wait until later on in the year and then watch the whole lot.
You can't.
Is it really that good?
Do you know what? I just love it. I mean, I'm.
It is.
So
I mean, it
prudish.
is a distraction. I do need a distraction.
But I am so prudish that when the nudie scenes and everything come on, I actually fast forward it because I just can't.
Really?
But yeah.
You embarrass yourself even when you're on your own.
I just don't do it. It's just not the right thing to do. I just don't. Why are you putting this on? We know what happens. I've read about it. I've read the books.
You've got 4 kids.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
you must know what's done. Oh yeah, of course. I've forgotten.
Yeah.
I think that is nice light relief, and he certainly would be if he was working in my garden, but he's not. So, tell me what you found today.
Right. So, this was interesting. This is in the Daily Star today. Up to 1 in 10 adults miss out on or forget special life events and social gatherings because they're distracted by their mobile phones. And I think this is really, really sad. What, from missing like the winning goal, for instance, even people blowing out their birthday candles. So all these milestones are being missed because people are on their mobile phones. And as soon as we get that message through to people, and hopefully this will start with this World Cup, people will be off their phones. And even when you go to concerts now, there's nothing worse.
I don't get it.
People up with phones and filming it.
Why are they filming?
You need to live in the present.
I know.
It's not fair.
They're watching it like they're watching it on a television. It's not even. It's just madness. I don't get it. I just don't understand it.
I doubt if they replay it and watch it from scratch. All they're doing is cutting it and putting it up on their social media systems. It's not fine.
Yeah.
One of the other stories that I saw today was the long waits in accident and emergency hospitals up and down the country. And there's a severe issue with mortality in them because over 16,000 excess deaths in England and more than 800 in Scotland have been down to purely extended waits in emergency departments.
That's
and I
brutal.
think that is just absolutely brutal, inhumane, mismanaged, and just totally wrong.
There's something really disastrously going wrong there if they're not triaging
did
properly.
you know that almost between 20 and 30% of cancers are actually detected on presentation at A&E? So people have been living with symptoms, and either because they can't get GP appointments, or because they keep putting visits to the doctor off because they might not want to know if there's something wrong.
Yeah.
But to be told you've got, more often than not, it's a late stage cancer, because obviously something's gone wrong. If you're feeling that bad, you take yourself off to A&E. But I also think though that there is this massive disconnect between people who are triaged at A&E and those that are discharged at hospital, and I think there's a blockage there. I think there's a huge blockage. There's a blockage between discharging patients that really have to go home, but because the joined up thinking's not done, perhaps they need social worker, occupational health, or even hospital transport to take them home. Perhaps their house isn't suitable for them to go back to. None of that is taken into consideration. The holistic view is not spoken about. If you are being admitted to hospital and you've got carers, the hospital on discharge must give the carers 48 hours notice. Now, how can you do that? How can you plan that your patient will be sent home in 2 days' time?
It was a separation of the social services and the NHS that's created complete disconnect. I found that with my brother, who was held in a very expensive hospital bed unnecessarily for longer than he needed to be, because of social services couldn't get their ducks in a row to help him. It was an absolute disaster, and the hospital were brilliant and were just saying, look, this is the situation we have to deal with, because social don't want to pay for it. As long as we're looking after him,
that's
then they
the other
won't.
thing. It's like a hot potato. It's like the Hammersmith Bridge. Who's going to repair it? Hammersmith and Fulham or Hounslow? Hammersmith and Fulham. I mean, come on,
so
guys.
nobody does it.
So nobody does it.
Yeah.
And there's always victims. In this case, it's just appalling.
They should be on the same budget. On the social services and NHS should be joined up again. I think that was a big mistake, because then they would agree and they would be able to come up with a plan, and they would be able to sort out.
And they'd have the pathways of integration and on finding out information on the patient and what's needed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a complete joke. It really is. Right, Claire Muldoon, I'm going to let you go a little bit early so I can sneak in a little bit of a phone call. I just got to put a little... Don't look at me like that. I feel bad now.
Do you feel bad? You're not including me in a phone call. You're cutting me off. Well, you can stay.
All right, you can stay. You can stay while I take a phone call. No, stay there.
Don't want me. No. I'm off.
Stay there and have a listen to Brian. Brian has called from London. Brian, good evening to you. You've got myself and Claire Muldoon.
Yeah, stay there, Claire. You might like this one. Petrie, earlier you said that the result regarding riots in Belfast and other places, the violence doesn't solve things. But I think it's the opposite. I think violence generally solves a lot of problems, as in that's why we have soldiers, and that's why we have tanks and battleships and things. And honestly, I think that's the only way we're going to solve this problem here, because we have 647 MPs squatting in the Houses of Parliament, and they're hiding behind process and international law, while outside we're the collateral damage that are getting raped, killed and murdered. And I think, but the lady laughed when I said it, but you can imagine, right, if next Wednesday at question time 1 million people were outside baying for their blood, they'd start worrying about their lives like we worry about ours. It sounds severe, but something's got to give here, because we are second and third class citizens in our own country.
But you're not recommending...
Anarchy,
yeah, you're talking anarchy at this stage. Are you talking about attacking Parliament?
I think sound before. Well, who are Parliament? Who are they? They're not representing us. Who are they representing? In fact, they are sending killers onto our streets. Aren't they? Can you disagree? You can't disagree with anything I've said there. You might be squeamish because you're looking at it from a feminine viewpoint.
Oh, don't stop that. I'll take a lot of stuff, but I'm not taking blatant misogyny.
Oh, give it a rest. But
No, you give it a rest.
You give it a rest.
Well, okay, then what are we going to do?
Because we're all girlies. We can't agree with violence. Is that what you're saying? Because we're girls. We don't like violence.
Well, no. But the lady, when I said it earlier on the phone, she laughed. But it seemed like it seemed strange to her. Whereas males look at it differently. And we,
Well, because you're inherently violent.
I think, well, that's why when someone needs to be stopped, you don't ask for a 5-foot girl to do it. You ask for a 6'2" man to do it. That's just natural.
Is it? Have you met any of the women that are in the military?
Well, the little ones. Well, why would I do that?
Have you met any of them? Have you ever been in a war, by the way? Have you ever done anything brave and what have you done in your life? Have you been a fireman, policeman, soldier, sailor?
Well, look at this. I was going to join
Have
the
you?
police force. I was going to join the police force. I didn't want to hit white people, so I didn't join there. I didn't join the army because I didn't want to fight people like Blair's wars going around.
No, but there's lots of women that do because they're not little girlies. They're very, very brave and brilliant soldiers.
Now you're turning this into me against you and your feminism. I'm saying it's us.
Well, you're being a misogynist, which is why I'm turning it in that way. You're being blatantly saying you don't want little girlies because men are more violent.
But then again, what you're doing is you're turning it me against you. So you keep saying misogyny, just the same as someone else that called me racist. There's natural things here, and it will need people. It will need strong men.
Strong men. Thank goodness for strong men, because it's never strong men that rape women. So we love strong men. Idiot. Claire, glad you stayed.
Me too. That was insightful.
Well, you're only a girl. What do you know?
I know. It's always prefixing with the only or just a.
Just a girl. You don't want one of those little 5-foot ones. Those women I met in the army, by the way, and in places like Bosnia and Somalia, completely brilliant, fearsome women. They were absolutely fantastic. I'd trust any of those any day. Claire Muldoon, you can go now.
Mwah.
Mwah.
Love you.
Love you. Thank you so much. Right, well, that was interesting. Wasn't expecting that. Back in a mo.
Across the UK on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a good morning to you. This is Petrie here with you, and it is Talk Back. It's your hour. It is a full hour dedicated to you. And given what has been happening in Belfast and the attack on that 40-year-old who's still in a serious condition in hospital, receiving treatment for serious eye, face and back wounds. That's what we're talking about, really, is are we in tinderbox Britain? It really does feel like we're on the edge in this country. And of course, anarchy is wrong. And despite what Brian was saying, it is not about, you know, men marching on the barricades and taking over Parliament or whatever. What would that achieve? Think about it. Just put a bit of brain power behind that. What would that actually achieve? Nothing, except death and doom on our streets. So although we are in a tinderbox situation, and it feels like it now. And I'm very calm. I don't do hyperbole. I don't do the drama. I don't try and whip you up into feeling dramatic and in all of those. It's just not my style. And I think it's irresponsible as well to whip people up into a frenzy. But I do feel that there's something in the air. And I also feel that politicians have got a lot to answer for if the streets do become violent this summer, if we're looking at the violence happening in Belfast at the moment, because politicians are inept. Wherever you are, whoever they are, it just doesn't seem that they've got any solutions. They just talk and they just say, oh, we're going to, smash the gangs, or one in, one out policy, which has been an absolute abject failure. And all we're seeing is more and more and more of what we don't want to see. And nobody seems to be addressing it. Nobody seems to have a solution. Nobody seems to have an answer. And even when it comes to a violent criminal who is an immigrant in this country, and that's not to say that all immigrants are, of course not, but it is to say that why are they still here? Why are we so powerless to eject somebody from this country who has broken the rules of our society? That I don't understand. And this is where politicians and lawmakers have a lot to answer for. If we knew for certain that somebody who transgressed against us in any legal way could be deported immediately without question, I think that would take a lot of pressure, a lot of steam out of the situation. But at the moment, we all feel powerless. And that is, I'm afraid, down to decades of political ineptitude. It is, kicking the can down the road. It is not making the hard decisions because they don't want to be seen to be making the hard decisions. And when it comes to this particular government, well, right now, we know that they're not even paying attention, really. They're not. I don't care if Starmer will come out and go, yeah, well, we're working really hard. I mean, because you're spending one eye looking to make sure nobody's got a knife that's going to go into your back. You're spending half the time making sure that you're staying Prime Minister. So don't tell me you're concentrating 100% on what's going on in the country, because I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. Some messages I want to read out. As a mum with mixed-race children, watching the chaos unfolding tonight has scared me so much. I'm afraid this government has ignored the problem for so long. It's pushing people over the edge, and it's the normal people who are going to have to face the consequences. Good people are going to be caught up in this, and it's not fair. I never thought I'd see the UK turn to this. And that's unsigned, but that is a really clear, brilliant message, because that mum is right. her kids may well get caught up in some race riot through no fault of their own because governments have not faced up to their responsibilities. Ernie says, hi Petrie, we couldn't send them back before Brexit. Yes, we could. We could. We had is it Dublin? The Dublin Agreement, I think it was. Either Dublin or Belfast, I think it was Dublin Agreement, where we could send them back to France. And we did. So we could. What's even more scary, this is from Andy, is that some of these attackers are in their 30s. You'd think they'd know better. Really? I don't know. This is just on Iran. Mark is saying there's going to be a full-scale war to expel the Iranian regime. Sorry, all this talk is just a way of making sure the plan is coherent and deliverable. So get ready, because it's the only way to stop Iran getting that bomb. And talking of Iran, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has responded to the US strikes that were carried out just a couple of hours ago. Writing on X, he said, "America has opted to test our determination despite defeats on the battlefield. Leave our region if you want to be safe," he says, adding, "Our powerful armed forces will leave no attack or threat unanswered." So as much as Donald Trump might like to frame these attacks in Iran as a defensive move, it looks like the ceasefire may be over. Right, let's get to your calls now. We are talking about whether we're in Tinderbox Britain, really. And I love that message from that mum. I think that really sums it up. That sums up my fears as well, that a lot of good people are going to get caught up in this through no fault of their own. Tristan is in Bedford. Hello, Tristan. How are you this morning?
Not too bad, I suppose.
Good.
But the thing is what's happening at the moment is going to change people's minds. I mean, I lived in America, and I had to have my visa extended every 6 months. And, you know, when it came to the point where they wouldn't extend my visa, I had to leave. I had no choice. And I accepted that and went willingly. And the thing is the situation now is my parents live in Lincolnshire, and if something happened to my parents, God forbid, I'm now in a situation where I wouldn't trust the police. And
really?
I take the law into my own hands, and that's a scary situation, but that's how I see myself.
In what way you wouldn't trust them? You wouldn't trust them to follow through?
I just wouldn't trust them. I wouldn't trust them to actually deal with the justice, what justice should be given. The other problem now is that I've never, ever carried anything, and now I'm thinking of actually arming myself.
No, really?
Yes. And the other thing is as well, in the past 2 years, I've never had to step in when women are being harassed on a train, and I've had to do that twice in the past 2 years. I've had to do that before outside nightclubs and things, but that's something you expect anyway when I lived in Luton. But the thing is now, you know, there's things that have happened, and you just have to think, well, the only reason it's happened is because we've got a useless government who doesn't have the will to do anything. And the thing is, they say all this rhetoric, but rhetoric doesn't do anything. Actions speak louder than words, and they refuse to do it. And the thing is when the Conservatives were in power and they put together that Rwanda plan, Labour voted against it. And the situation we also had is when they were trying to deport those immigrants, and then you had all those people trying to stop it, you know, and blocking that coach and everything, and then stopping and so it's just like, even when they do try and do something, which the Conservatives did try to do, they had no actual help or actually any assistance or any sort of, party coalition to actually get it done. And now we're in a situation where it is untenable now. It is untenable.
Do you think that the immigration problem should be a cross-party issue?
Yeah.
That it's a big enough issue now that it should be a cross-party? And
100%.
Yeah. That there needs to be a group of people separate from government in a way who can come up and make those decisions long term.
The problem, as I said, is you've got normal people that are starting to want to do things and think they need to do things they've never done before. Like, I've never attended protests before. I would have attended protests had I been well, but obviously the situation with my Crohn's has made that not be able to. But, you know, if I was well enough to, I would have gone to many protests. Definitely United the Kingdom one. Definitely.
Really?
And as I said, you know, because of the situation how it is, you know, I am going to be arming myself when I am well enough and I am around. I'm going to have my looking over my shoulder, and whenever I go to London, whenever I go up north, I'm going to be very, very wary of my surroundings. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, arming yourself is.
This is what this government has done.
I mean, it is not legal to carry a weapon,
it's not.
as you know, I have to say that. But also, if you don't know what you're doing with it, you know, you're more likely to be a victim of the weapon you're carrying.
I used to do kickboxing, and I have had some, shouldn't really say on the radio, to be honest with you, but I know what to do. This is what I'm going to say.
Okay.
And the thing is, I've had 12 blood transfusions, so I value my, you know, if I lost blood or anything like that, it's something that's very, very important. And obviously the situation with me having Crohn's anyway. And the thing is, I never thought about anything like this. I never thought I'd do anything like this. But because of what the government are not doing, they are now pushing people to the absolute brink. Because they're not doing anything. They're refusing to accept things. They're refusing to... We can see it all. It's you know, like what happened today, it's not as if they can cover it up. It's everywhere. You know, where I had this video sent to me this morning by a friend of mine, and I was half asleep, and I was thought, what the hell is that? And went back to sleep. And then I woke up a couple of hours later, and suddenly it blew up all over the internet, and I couldn't believe what I was watching. This is medieval cultures being imported into a Western civilization. It doesn't make it. You know, I remember, if you remember, I think it was 10 years ago, when you had those ISIS killers were beheading people in a row. People when you actually go and you know, aid people. On an aid convoy, they went out there, they were captured, and then I
remember it very well, yeah.
I mean, what are we going to do? Is that the limit? Is that the limit we're going to have, where eventually they're going to sit up and take notice?
But, I mean, I know this is an unpopular thing to say, but this is a Sudanese man that attacked we don't know who, right? And I mean, there's never an excuse for that sort of attack. But we can't then say it's all Sudanese immigrants, can we?
No, we can't. But the thing is you have to say is what is the actual limit, and this is.
But do we say because that was a medieval?
When is enough? When is enough enough? When is eventually they're going to stay in government? Okay, this has got too far. This is escalated to a ridiculous level. We've got to do something. But they don't say that. They don't even admit there's a problem. All they keep saying is, oh yeah, let's call for calm. Let's be patient. I'm sorry, but that is over. To be honest with you, that is over.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely, I completely agree that politicians are not. They're not hearing how angry people are. They're completely disjointed from it. And, of course, they've got to be responsible, right? They can't be whipping up violence on the streets. But they can use words better, I think, to say, look, we get it. It is time that we did something. But they're not saying that. No, they're not. And you're right. And there is a line where they can't cross it, and they shouldn't cross it, but they're not even walking up to that line, are they? They're not even meeting us halfway. And I understand why people are angry and frustrated. I genuinely do. I don't think that violence and storming government is the answer, but the politicians have to act. They have to do something.
They do. And as I said to you, what is the limit? As I said, if you're getting to start turning people's mind who didn't think about, you know, as I said, arming themselves or anything like that.
I think this is creating more racists in the country than there ever were before.
Yeah.
And that is very worrying, because there's a huge, population of people in this country who are doing nothing wrong, and they happen to be brown and black skinned, and they're doing absolutely nothing wrong, but they're getting dragged into it. These good people are getting dragged into the crossfire of racism because people are angry and scared.
Yeah, and as I said, if the government is doing absolutely nothing, it's like they're putting their fingers in their ears. That's how it comes across. And they literally
I agree.
are just doing absolutely nothing. As I said to you, what is the limit?
Yeah, I mean, they have to take responsibility for what's going on. With what's happening in Belfast, and if it spreads as it has done a little bit in this country, because they're just not responding in a way that we need them to respond.
No, I mean the thing is what else are we going to actually end up seeing in the next couple of days or next couple of weeks? The thing is if you've got one situation, one incident that happens 1 week, and then before people have actually had the time to, think about that and get over that, and then suddenly something else happens, it comes to where you've got them happening in such a consistent space of time where people just are like, well, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, we at the moment it just feels like we can't catch our breath, doesn't it?
No.
It just feels like one thing after the other. Tristan, thank you. Right, I'm going to take a quick break, but I will be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you through until 1 o'clock. And we're talking at the moment about the state of the country and how people are so angry. And I wonder if there is anything that the politicians could do at this stage to take the temper, to take the heat out of the temperature, because I just feel that they're letting us down every time they speak, to be honest with you, and that they're not really, they're not. They say they're aware of the anger. They say, oh, we know how angry you are, but we are urging calm. And I get that. That is their responsibility. They have to be responsible. They have to suggest that. Whipping people up to be violent on the streets is not what anybody particularly wants. Even those who are telling me that that's what they do want. I don't believe that that's what they want. I don't believe people want anarchy. I don't believe people want rioting in the streets. And not just the cost to the country, but the cost to lives, the cost to everything. I don't think that's what we want. I don't think that's who we are. But I do understand that people, if they feel they're not heard, will shout louder and riot. I understand it. I don't condone it, but I do understand the frustration with not being listened to. But I wonder if there's anything that the politicians could do at this stage to ease your frustration, to make you less angry. Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Let's talk to Francis, who's in London. Hello, Francis.
Yes, Petrie, good morning.
Good morning. Are we Tinderbox Britain?
Yes, I've just been listening to some of the phone calls, and it's rather, sometimes I think we've got what I would call selective. We tend to be, in this part of the world, we have this, what I would describe as selective outrage. We pick and choose what upsets us and what doesn't upset us. Look, what we need to start doing, first of all, as a country, is to start asking our politicians and our leaders what they get involved with. Especially, look, we're living in times where our politicians and our governments are waging illegal wars abroad, okay? We've been down this road many times, and I've been banging on about it for years on radio stations that the destabilizations of other countries would eventually lead to a lot of mass immigration, both illegal and legal. And what would then happen is it does create chaos. And every time you say it, the shutters come down, people try to shut you down, and they would say, well, let's move on to something else. Here we are, after, the 9/11 attacks and all whatnots, okay?
The Iraq-Iran stuff, that destabilised the whole region,
Yes, our government with America set about, based on lies, to destabilize the whole Middle East. And not just that.
Well, in the 70s, we destabilised Iran. We're almost directly responsible for what's happening now.
Exactly. And time again, I get people who come on the radio, and I cannot believe why we have all this problem with people, mass migration, illegal immigration. I'm like, wake up and smell the coffee. We have access to information. I do not want to hear. I've been saying it for many years that we need to hold our government accountable for their irresponsible behaviors, their irresponsible actions. And people are not prepared to do it, Petrie, because the truth is not very nice.
I know, but the truth is also it's incredibly inconvenient, isn't it? If you start talking to people about what's going on in Iran and the fact that Britain and America destabilised that entire country because they had the nerve to want to nationalise their oil and keep it, the profits for themselves, and putting in the wrong people. And look at Saddam Hussein. I mean, we effected regime change. Every time we poke our noses, and have done historically, into other countries, we've left them worse than we found them. You look at Afghanistan, what a brutal, horrible hellhole that place is now. We just walked away. We just walked away. And we are responsible. So you get a lot of people leaving those countries because of wars and famine and all sorts of things, because we've cut and America cutting their aid programs. Well, where else are they, in a sense, what else are they meant to do? They're not going to stay there. We wouldn't. We would move.
And the problem now, look at Sudan. The UAE is part of, the UAE is financing a large chunk of that war. And we are in bed with the UAE. Britain and America is hand in glove with the UAE. We are supplying the UAE with weapons, and they are supplying the weapons to the rebels, okay, that are causing havoc in Sudan. But you see, the media will not talk about all of these because, something, the truth, if we really want to hold our politicians accountable, it's about time the public as a whole started asking questions about what actions we take and what we actually do in other people's countries. Then we would understand why the world is in chaos. But I'm afraid they don't want to ask those questions. They want to listen to the Nigel Farages of this world. And people have to remember one thing. Isn't Farage the same person who dragged us and said, leave the EU and we'll be better off? And now they've changed the whole tune into something else. Let's blame migrants. Look, before I leave, Petrie, I'd like to say something people need to take very note of. In this country, no matter what anyone wants to say, you go to our hospitals and our homes, the person taking your blood right down to the physician, the likelihood of them being black or brown is probably 80%, okay, of the time. And people need to understand, be very careful what you wish for. Because if they want to hit the street and, dish out this whole anti-migrant rhetoric and nonsense, they have to understand one thing. You cannot tar everyone with the same brush. And I'm getting sick and tired of hearing, we have, a migrant problem, and we have this problem, and we have that problem. Crimes happen in all communities. And what happened in Belfast was terrible. What happened with the Sikh guy, was terrible. But these are very rare things that it happens once in a blue moon,
especially in the Sikh community. They are such peace-loving people, and are amongst some of the best integrated in the country.
Exactly. Petrie, exactly. And I'm sickened. I was at the gym earlier on, and a Sikh guy was like, when I go out, I'm getting, hostility from, people on the streets and all whatnot.
I mean, that's just ignorance.
It's unacceptable.
Yeah, it is unacceptable.
It's unacceptable, and we need to stop it. And the way I see it is, we need to understand that we live in a multicultural society. A lot of cultures have brought so much richness to this country, and vice versa. And the thing is, we need to stop and not listen to politicians like the Farages and the Northern.
But do you not accept that? Do you not accept that there is an issue, though, with the boats? And whether we caused it or not, and I'm with you on that. In the long term, there is an issue. That people can see that the cost to the country is, it's a negative. It's not. These people are not doctors and nurses that are coming over. But there is an issue, isn't there, with so many people coming?
Oh yes, there is an issue. But you see, let's the boats. Most of those. The people raking in the money. A lot of the money is being used to buy businesses here. You go on a lot of high streets in the UK, we have a lot of restaurants and businesses that operate in a very you sometimes look at these businesses and you wonder how they make a profit or how they actually survive. But they're still operating some sort of, I don't know how they operate. They know if they really wanted to stop the boats, our governments have the power and to pressure financial institutions to know exactly where the money is being funneled through, who is receiving the money, and what that money is being used for. I'm afraid to say they're all complicit in this mess. Most of these governments, it's all lip service. They keep telling us that they don't understand how this whole thing works. They surely understand how it works. They choose not to do anything about it, I'm sorry to say.
And is that cheap labour, or is it... Why? Why do you think they refuse to do something about it?
Because it helps deflect society from what's really going on. We are talking about the small boats now. It's a talking point for most of the political establishment, because by sorting that out, what then can they shift our attention onto? It's very easy to say we have a problem with the small boats. People are paying people through the banking system or the financial systems. Are they trying to tell us that with all the advancement in technologies, they haven't got a clue about who's receiving the money and who is using the money? That's absolute nonsense.
Yeah, I agree.
We can go to the moon. So listen, and people have stopped asking questions because they are happy with what they are given. They throw something out for them to sort of believe in, and they believe it wholeheartedly. I don't. I know for a fact that there is some sort of, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I sometimes believe that they know exactly who is fueling all of this, both crossings, and it's part and parcel of the deflection game, not to draw our attention to what's really going on. And what's really going on is very ugly. The Epstein files, the you know?
Yeah, the billionaires, the control
exactly,
of
the billionaire class.
The control of us by technology, all of those things as well. And I agree, if they keep us fighting amongst ourselves, we're not looking at them.
Yes.
We're not questioning them.
Absolutely, and I mean, and they're succeeding because, and it's very, very worrying. I mean, I've stopped watching the news because I think to myself, my God, it's like we are in the grip of some sort of very, very dark entity that really is controlling every aspect of our lives.
Yeah, I wish I didn't have to watch the news. I can tell you.
I mean, I'm sort of very, very, and I'm pleading with the public not to fall for this, because that's what they want. They want anarchy, they want destructiveness, they want mass confusion, because out of that, they're able to operate their evilness, you know?
Well, they're able to operate more control over us.
Oh, yeah.
As well.
It's a mechanism.
Yeah.
And we really have to be, you know, you need to sometimes, you know, ignore the noise and really sort of listen to what's really going on. And people need to take note of that. I've stopped listening to the noise. All of this, you know, mass immigration, it's causing mayhem. Our streets are not safe. You know, it's to, you know, deflect our attention from the real evil nastiness going on. And people need to take note of that. And I am. And
very, Francis, you know, words that I completely agree with. I'm always saying it. I say it so often on this show as well. Is just look at the background, see what they're trying to distract us from, yes. Because it does feel like you said, this is all practically almost deliberate. And what are they hiding by dangling this fresh meat in front of us? Exactly. And I think that's very, very wise words. Good to talk to you, Francis. Thank you so much for calling in. I tell you what, I'm going to talk to you about the World Cup. That's what I'm going to do. The FIFA World Cup kicks off on Thursday, and our friends at talkSPORT are sending you and a mate straight to New York City with Adidas, the tournament's official match ball supplier. It's the ultimate trip to watch England face Panama live at the MetLife Stadium. Return flights, hotel, match tickets and spending money, all taken care of. Adidas is also throwing in the official try-on match ball and a fresh pair of boots. So don't miss out. Here is how to enter.
Your chance to win, head to our friends at talksportwin.com or text TALK to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate, or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close on the 12th of June 2026 at 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talksportwin.com. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here with you until the top of the hour. And we're talking about the goings-on in Belfast, and it seems to have calmed down a bit now, and certainly not had any new breaking news. But the violence that we saw in Belfast, and it's just I'm asking the question really, are we Tinderbox Britain? Because it seems like there's so much happening in quick succession that we've barely got time to catch our breath before there's the next outrage. And I just don't know what this means for us going forward. And it does feel like the country is very highly charged at the moment. And Mark, I'll just read some more messages. Mark said, thanks for understanding the rage, Petrie. It's not an exaggeration to say that our politicians don't understand, or if they do, don't really care about the grievance behind it. And that's certainly what it feels like, isn't it? And Gary said, this is getting scary now. There are large groups of people, mostly men, many dressed in black and masked, walking through Glasgow city centre in protest. This came in 2 hours ago, just so you know. They've already attacked 2 lone brown lads. I watched the Belfast attack and it's haunted me. I have no doubt these riots will continue. And as far as I'm concerned, it's on consecutive governments for allowing this to happen. So, yeah, it's just exactly what I was saying. They've got to take responsibility for this. Another one from Mark says, the political reaction is all words and no deed, or even an indication of meaningful deed. We don't want words. We want destroyers in the channel blocking the small boats. Starmer isn't distracted. He's paralysed by fear of taking a decision. He may as well be a wax dummy. So there you go. Back to your calls now. And John is in West Lothian. Morning, John.
Well, good morning to you.
So what do we make to all of this? Do you think that the politicians are reacting in the right way to this violence that we're seeing?
No, absolutely not. But then we've got to take it from the Prime Minister down. The Prime Minister has said on numerous occasions that his first duty is the protection of the country. Talking about defence when that crops up. The biggest problem that we have at the moment is from within, and it's been created by them. They are not addressing the serious problems that the people of this country worry about and are concerned about, and we can see it day in, day out. And what does he do? He blames the people. He blames right wing, this wing, that wing, but anything but himself. The whole problem is that this government is anti-British. They do not care about the country. They care about themselves. And in my 70-odd years, this must be the worst government and the government I've been most ashamed of, irrespective of how you vote or anything else. I've never known a government that is so anti-against the people that this government is.
Do you really think they're anti-British? I mean, and what would be your evidence of that?
Well, they've done nothing to stop the boats. They feel that all that they've got to do is to stay in power, and that is, you've got to look at it in all sorts of different ways. The benefit system, for example. If they were a serious government about increasing the wealth of the country, the wealth of the people, they'd be encouraging people into employment, not encouraging them not to work. We would be looking seriously at our overseas foreign aid. Now, we give millions, billions of pounds around the world to countries that have absolutely no respect for us whatsoever. And what they're doing is sending all the people over here. And, I'm all for supporting people that genuinely need help. But when you've got, these wars going on within countries, and we keep sending them money, and they're doing nothing for their population, the only people that are making any money out of it are the people that's running the country. You know, it is a...
Yeah, I mean, I think in principle foreign aid is a good idea for all the reasons I was talking to Francis about, right? You know, because if it controls disease, it controls famine, and it controls other things in countries, so it dissuades people from migrating, then that's all to the good, right? But I do agree with you that it is often misused, and it certainly has been in the past, and so we're giving the money and we're getting the immigration. So I do agree with you, but on principle, I think that foreign aid is of benefit to us in this country if it is used in the right way.
If it was used in the right way, I totally agree with you 100%. But we're sending lots of money to countries that are not looking after their own populations. We've got countries like India, Pakistan that are developing nuclear weapons and have nuclear weapons, that are, building up system to send people to the moon.
Yeah, they got their own space. India's got a fantastic space program. I don't think India takes money from us anymore. They've rejected it, although we would still give it, but they've said they don't want it.
Yeah, if they keep knocking at the door, I'm sure we would. But there's so much of this going on in the world, that, and there's these, the guy that is just allegedly carried out this horrible event in Belfast. Why is he here? Why are we allowing him here? He's been through all these other countries. He's been in France and all the rest, all safe countries, and still we because we are the soft touch in the world at the moment, and we're becoming a laughingstock around the world for anybody that wants to rid of anybody. Send them to Britain because they will look after them.
Yeah, but there are countries across Europe that have more migrants than we do. So it's a problem. It's a Europe-wide, in fact, it's a worldwide issue. The mass movement of populations is gathering pace, right? People are moving, in the South Americas, in Europe, around the world, people are moving. I mean, you look at the mess the world is in, and it's hardly surprising. If you were Iranian right now, you'd want to leave, wouldn't you? I would.
Yes, I suppose I would.
Right, yeah, and you'd want to get to a safe country.
Yes, but there are lots of safe countries between Iran and the UK, and
yeah, but a lot of people do go to those countries.
Yes, but
it's not. They don't all. That is a complete myth that they all come to Britain because we're this soft touch. Because other countries, if you look at their migration issues, they have many more people going to them as well. But it is a Europe-wide issue, and I don't know why Europe isn't dealing with this as a bloc.
Well, it was
because if they did, then they wouldn't be able to come through Europe to illegally come to the UK. But the other point is, if we had centres around the world where people could apply for asylum, right? Because the only place to apply for asylum is on British soil. It's the only place you can apply. So they have to come here to apply. Whereas if we had places they could apply and be rejected in another country, then we could declare those people coming across on boats as illegal and send them back. There's all the laws that are involved in this as well.
Well, the laws, the current laws that the ECHR and all the rest are just absolute nonsense. Angela Merkel started this. She started this problem and then got out of it. But when you look at the European countries now, you've got many of them where they've had tremendous problems with violence, with murders and all the rest of it.
I mean, we do have our own pretty scumbaggy people as well. I mean, let's be honest. But the problem is not so much. Let me finish the sentence. It's not so much the immigration. It is the speed and the number. Because if it was a drip and people were coming here in smaller numbers and there was enough time in between, then people could, assimilate, amalgamate, become part of society. But you dump, a million people in, like Germany did, in one day. Or a couple of days, 1 million people went to Germany. Of course, there's going to be problems. How do they integrate? There's no thought about how you bring people with you as a society, and that's been the problem here. It's the continuing high numbers and the speed.
Yeah, but we're not attempting to stop it. That's the whole problem. No. We just go on accepting it and then we make excuses about it. We actually have to take a positive stand and say, look, enough is enough. We're not taking any more at all for a period of time until we sort out this. And as for integration, it's not integration. We're creating ghettos in lots and lots of parts of the country, which would never have been before. Why have we got so many people in the country that cannot speak the language and are not willing to learn the language?
Yeah, because if you come across legally, you've got to have proper understanding of the English language. It's just those who come across it applying for asylum. Yeah, I mean, look, I get you and I hear it, and I do hear the anger and the frustration as well, because I don't, and being called racist because you feel that way, I think is deeply unfair, because I haven't heard that from people. I haven't heard them saying, oh, I hate all brown people or black people. This is just about the speed and the numbers of migrants that are coming over that create an imbalance in society, and the governments don't seem to want to admit that or address that. Right, quick break, back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, just before we get back to the calls, TalkSport have teamed up with Meantime to create a lager in time for the World Cup. It's called So Good Lager, which we poured from all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. They've already tested it at TalkSport. They seem to quite like it. So whether you're watching the action this summer or settling in for an afternoon with your mates, make sure you check out talksport.com/so good to find your nearest pub. So good, 18 plus, and please drink responsibly. It's going to be a really hot weekend this weekend. And I'm really looking forward to it, actually. It'd be really nice. Can't wait. Right, back to your messages. Alison says, when Starmer is questioned about two-tier policing and other topics, he denies it. What he needs to do is sit down with the people, us, and ask, why do we say it's two-tier? What do we want? Why the boats need stopping? What do we not like? I know we have elected MPs that are meant to do the job for us, but Starmer will not listen or ask us. Until he does, this will sadly happen again and again. And I 100% agree with that, Alison. It is really... he's got to sit down and actually hear what people have got to say, and they don't. Joanna says, every move Starmer makes, it feels deliberate, scorch earth policy. I think if this really kicks off, there aren't enough police, military or prisons to contain it. Sue says, you're so right, Petrie, the government are impotent and only concerned about their own welfare and positions in power. Yep, I'm afraid that's power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts, absolutely. Robert is in Hertfordshire. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Petrie. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you? I haven't spoken to you for a bit.
Nah, deeply depressed, to be honest with you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It upset me so much.
I upset you?
Sorry?
I upset you?
No, you ain't. No, the events of today. Sorry, what happened in Belfast.
Oh, yeah. It's it is really upsetting, and it is depressing. I can feel it as well.
Well, the thing is, we had it last week with poor Henry. And it was quite refreshing, really, because on Thursday evening, and Andre Walker, God bless him, in the first minute of his programme, he took the knee on his desk.
Did he? Well, he's quite short. I think he's quite short, Andre. So.
Well, Ash was sitting there. Ash said, "Oh, he was going to do it as well, but he didn't think the desk would hold his weight."
Not both of them. No.
But but going on to I think myself, my views are quite diverse, and I'll tell you what I really do think is wrong with this country. Then you can, as you usually do, shoot me down in flames. But I believe this is all part, not the murders and not the attempted murders, but what's happening in this country, the unemployment. This government, a government of Marxists, you've got a Prime Minister who's a fifth columnist and a globalist, and you've got shady people on the back benches who are Marxists. Now, they don't want this country to thrive. They would love everybody to be out of work, because then they are reliant on the government and they've got ready-made votes. As simple as that. You look at all the pubs that are closing because they don't want people to converse. They don't want people to get together. Then it's all part of a big, big Marxist picture. And do you know what? I'm fed up with being right. For the last 2 or 3 years, I've been saying, they're going, oh, that's the end now. Starmer's had it. No, he ain't. No, he ain't. No, he's not had it. That is the only way out of this, really, is to stop. You can't, we're in trouble, but you can stop a problem from getting worse. You can do that. But that's been my motto in life,
But how? How do we stop the problem of Britain getting worse? Because if you say it's deliberate...
Straight away. We've got a change of government, whether it's a...
We've got 3 years, so there's nothing we can do about
there won't be nothing left in 3 years. I mean, you look what's happened in a week in the 2 incidents that happened. And when that poor Henry saga started, I said to my wife, that's not the end of it. Well, I didn't think it was going to be this quick.
No.
And what we see there, it was obviously like Lee Rigby, because I remember I was in hospital watching it on telly when that happened.
Yeah, it's very similar, actually. That reminded me of the Lee Rigby incident as well, the one in Belfast.
Exactly the same. I mean, if you don't matter who it is, you try and chop someone's head off, it's the same as the last one. But I made, my wife didn't want to watch it, and I made her watch it. I said, no, it's your duty to watch it. I phoned up my girl. I've got a friend. I've been with a friend with her for years. She said, no, I don't want to watch it. I made her watch it. Because I said, it's your duty to watch it. I know it's upsetting, but life is upsetting. You've got to watch it. Yeah, and I don't think I don't think you can stop that. I've got a theory. I'll tell you what. I feel on these boats that have been coming over, hundreds and hundreds of them, there's one or two sleepers in every one. That's what I've always believed. I believe they're slipping in, and I've read articles where Iran are actually paying their boat, their boat money. And these people, I'm not saying I don't know how many there is, could be hundreds, could be thousands. But what you'll get isolated incidents, which is very hard to police. It's different if there's a lot of terrorists together, and they're planned it together. Now you'll get things like this. You'll get isolated incidents. And that guy today, the guy who done the attempted murder, he ain't going to go to prison. He ain't going to get deported. He's going to go to a nice, cushy mental.
Right, we've got to be careful here because there's been an arrest and a charge made. So any speculation as to what may or may not happen to him has to be left to the courts, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
But the broader point is that if people come to this country, whether it be legal or illegal, if they break the law, they need to not be in this country anymore. I mean, I don't see why that's so difficult.
Well, I agree with your last caller, where we're in trouble, where we should suspend all asylum claims, say for 2 or 3 years, and we should certainly not give any more foreign aid out, especially to countries like Pakistan, who's got a nuclear program. Well, it's madness. We're giving foreign aid to Pakistan. I don't know if we still are, but we was.
We were, certainly were. I can't tell you off the top of my head if we still are, because I know there's been some changes.
But they're a nuclear power.
Yeah, look, I get it, and there's a lot of guilt that we carry as a nation as well, because we have meddled in a lot of countries, and we have meddled in a way. Look at Iran. I mean, the mess that Iran is in is almost entirely our fault, and the Americans.